When it comes to seeking approval, many times women at the core believe that they are not enough just as they are. And so they're having to pack on accolades and awards and accomplishments. So we're having to work on a sense of self-worth that is independent from external validation. And to be honest, many people are not thinking about you as much as you think that they are.
Hello everyone, welcome to Talk with Mo. This is season 5 and we are starting this season with an amazing guest. With me in the studio, I have Dr. Yewande Fadojutimi, popularly known as Dr. Yewande. She's delectable, she's sweet, and you would love her as much as I do. Just wait till she introduces herself to you. Dr. Yewande, welcome to Talk with Mo.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here today.
Oh, wow. Thank you. The pleasure is all ours. You know, I'm a fan, and I'm sure that you have lots of fans everywhere. But, you know, we thought to start this season with bringing in an expert like you to talk about mental health. I know you're an expert in women's wellness and mental health, but the stories we share, there's always a mental health aspect of it, which we never address. And sometimes I think it's because of the Nigerianness. We tend to sweep the mental health aspect under the carpet. But in this season, I thought we should do something different. Thank you for agreeing to collaborate with us. That every guest we get, we will have your input on them as much as your availability allows, of course. So for today, we're going to be having different guests coming, of course. But I wanted to touch base with you. What are some of the things that you see in your practice that could be drawbacks to those areas, those gray areas we never want to talk about? Like before we came in here, I was talking about how I was always like a hamster on a treadmill, always going. And it's easy to keep going without realizing you are losing your life because you're not living. You're existing to make one goal. And sometimes it's all to get the approval of maybe a parent or a husband or society. So please, what do you have to say about that? Have you seen such in your practice? And, you know, is this only me?
Definitely not only you. So I'll start by introducing myself a bit, because I think my story will also shed a bit of light on some of the things that we're going to talk about today.
Absolutely.
So as I said, I'm Dr. Yewande. A lot of people call me Dr. Yewande. Lately, people call me DY, which is another, like some of my young friends call me, which is, it's a nice twist.
I like it, DY.
And so, as you said, I'm a medical doctor, and my area of specialty is mental health. But it wasn't always that way. I used to be an ER physician. I worked in the emergency room for about 10 years, between medical school training, about 10 years of work. But just like you, it was, just have those goals, set those goals, hit those milestones, then get married, have the kids, buy the house, check. And at the end of that, it's like, okay, where is the happiness that everyone promised was going to be there at the end of the day? So I took a step back in around 2016, as I was getting ready to have, my son was born in 2016. No, not 2016, start again. He was born in 2019. So around 2019, when I was expecting my second child, my son, I went on maternity leave and took the opportunity to say, okay, Yewande, take a step back and self-reflect. Really do the work of getting to know yourself for who you are. Who you are at the core. What are your core values? What are the things that make you truly joyful and truly happy? What were the things that you have always done all your life? And are you honoring them in the things that you're doing today in your work, in your relationships? And so I did a few exercises, self-reflection, of course, prayed. I'm a person of faith and really rely on God to guide me in these kinds of decisions. And it turned out that the work that I was doing wasn't really connecting with who I was at the core. And so I took a step back, took a very scary step back, and went back and retrained as a therapist. And I can honestly say that that journey has brought me the most fulfillment, outside of, being a wife, being a mom of two, outside of my, my service in my church. My career now brings me so much joy and so much fulfillment. And in my practice, so I'm the founder of Kamy Counseling Services. And in my practice, I see women who are entrepreneurs, women who are executives, women who are professionals. And it's the same story for a lot of these women that I've done all these things. I've checked all the boxes. And why do I still feel unfulfilled? Why do I still feel unhappy? Why do I feel like I'm living my life for other people? I don't even know what kind of music I like. I don't even know what colors I like. I feel like I've lost myself in the whole process of
loss of identity.
Loss of identity. And many times I like to say that, yes, women come to me because they tell me that they are depressed and they tell me that they are anxious. And of course, as a medical professional, I have to rule out things like, is this a vitamin D deficiency? Is this a thyroid issue? Is there a serotonin imbalance, dopamine imbalance, all those things that need supplements or medication. But what I've also realized is that this depression that people experience, this anxiety that they experience, is a lack of alignment. It's telling them that, hey, you're getting into your 40s now, maybe even to your 50s now. You feel depressed, but it's not because of a chemical issue. It's more of a soul issue. It's more of, all these things that you used to, as a girl, you used to dance. As a girl, you used to write. And now you've been in a cubicle for the past 20, 30 years. It's time to come back.
So in a sense, they are mourning what has been lost.
What's been lost. And it's calling them back to say, you know what, you've ignored me for too long. It's time to reconnect. It's time to really find out who you are and do the things that you love that will really fuel you. And so you're not the only one. I see it in my practice every day.
This is interesting. And your story is intriguing and inspiring at the same time, because you are medical personnel and then a therapist. So you combine both and you're able to provide the help that is much needed. You're looking at it from two sides, two perspectives, and saying, hey, I've got a wholesome point of view about what's going on. And isn't that what we all need? So you're not going from one place to another, because sometimes you have doctors, and doctors are wonderful, but you have doctors who are able to understand the medical, but they're not in tune with the emotional, the psychological. And that is what you bring to the table. And how wholesome is that?
Yes, I'm going to even offer that there are three angles, because I believe that we are mind, we are body, and we are spirit. So the three together. And so sometimes I'm having to ask people, especially my clients who come to me and they're people of faith, and when was the last time you were in a community that shared the same faith as you? When was the last time you listened to something that nourished your spirit? So yes, we can deal with the vitamin D deficiency, the thyroid deficiency. We can deal with the mind, the negative thinking patterns. But then we also have to deal with, okay, how are you connecting on a deeper level? And is that something that's been missing for a while? And so, it's a beautiful thing to be able to bring that holistically.
It is a beautiful thing. And it's a blessing for anyone who's able to access your service that way. Wow. I'm sure our viewers are happy that we have an expert like you who's going to be giving us advice, and we can rely on your input as we share stories from various individuals. But however, apart from just this seeking approval, what other, symptoms do you see out there, especially pertaining to women? In the workplace, in businesses, and because you see a lot of professionals, whether entrepreneurs, business women, or career people, you see a lot of women, and you see a lot of people apart from women anyhow. What are those symptoms that are common to, are they common to Nigerians? Are they common to immigrants, Nigerian immigrants who are just coming into Canada and struggling to navigate the system, for example? what do you see out there, and what advice would you have for us?
Yeah, so as far as women in general, I'll start with women in general, and then we'll talk about issues that I see specifically in my clients that are maybe new to the country, new to Canada in the past 5, 7 or so years. So women in general, so in addition to seeking approval, doing things to get the approval of, they might not even know that they're doing it until we have the conversations like, okay, is this something you really want to be doing? Why are you doing it? And then we start to unpack layers, because when it comes to seeking approval, many times women at the core believe that they're not enough just as they are. And so they're having to pack on accolades and awards and accomplishments, because it's like, okay, if people really see that, what if I lose all these things, who am I at the end of the day? So we're having to work on a sense of self-worth that is independent from external validation. The other thing that I often will see is perfectionism. Perfectionism, having to get things right all the time, because it's like, okay, if I make a mistake, people are going to think that I'm weak, or people are going to think I don't know what I'm doing. And so again, having to work on the fact that nobody is perfect. And to be honest, many people are not thinking about you as much as you think that they are, right? So that perfectionistic tendencies of wanting to get everything done. And I see it in 2 different forms. So there's the perfectionism that is obvious, in that these are women that are very productive and do excellent work. But on the other hand, there's women who procrastinate, in that they keep telling themselves, well, if I can't get everything right, then I'm not going to bother doing it.
There's no point starting.
There's no point starting. So they want to have all the certifications, all the degrees, all the imaginary requirements before they put themselves out there, whether it's for a new job or a role, or to start a business, or even to go back to school. Whatever it might be. And so they procrastinate, and they procrastinate because they don't have everything, that it doesn't look perfect. Maybe it's the perfect time, and so it comes in different flavors. The perfectionism, where it's like, okay, I'm having to do everything and work on everything and produce excellent work at the detriment sometimes even of my health or my relationships. And then the procrastination flavor. And so there's so many different things that are very common with women, but those are some of the ones that I see.
I mean, I think about your story, having gone through medical school and then taking a decision to say, well, I'm not finding fulfillment in that. I'm just going to go and train to be a therapist. Now, today we look at that and say that is value add. But at that time, it would have been scary. So if there are people in different career thinking to, for example, I'm a lawyer and I felt burnt out and I just didn't find fulfillment. I loved the work I was doing. It was meaningful work, but I just was not finding fulfillment in it anymore. And so I decided, well, I'm going to do stuff that I liked, and that is impact my community one way or the other. And so it's usually not easy to get to that point where you decide, I'm a professional, but I'm not finding fulfillment here. And for me, I think it was tough getting to that point, because I thought, well, what will my parents say? What would my in-laws say? What would everyone say? Everyone but me. And so it's tough to get to that point. So what would you say to women like me, who are still trying to navigate to come to that decision like you did, and thankfully like I have now done? But how do they get past all the what ifs? And what would they say to the point? What would your advice be?
I think one of the most freeing things, first of all, is to realize that even the people that love you the most might not support you in the beginning. And that is okay. Doesn't mean that they are bad, doesn't mean that they don't love you. It's just that they don't see what you see. They don't feel what you feel. They cannot see the vision that you have, and they cannot feel the the anxiety, the sadness, the sense of loss that you feel. All they know is, so I remember when I started on this journey, my husband would say, Yewande, when I married you, you're a medical doctor. This is also confusing, but now he's my biggest supporter because he sees how happy I am. He sees how full of life I am now. And so the first thing I will say is just release everybody else from that sense of responsibility that they have to support you. Yes, it would be nice to have people supporting you at the beginning, but it doesn't have to be your closest family or friends, because remember, they are only human. And when you start to make these changes, it's scary for them too, because it's almost like you're shifting their sense of normalcy as well. And it feels threatening a little bit to them. So they are also just responding as a normal human being would. So giving them a bit of grace, but then also finding support somewhere else. So one thing that I did was I found other physicians who had done what I was doing.
The same thing.
You know, who had stepped out of the box and were doing things outside of what normal doctors are supposed to do. And so the more I heard this, which is why I love what you do, because you share stories, and what it does is it gives people examples of what's possible for them. So I started to see, okay, this is doctor is doing this and that doctor is doing that. Okay, maybe I can do it too. And so surrounding myself, and not necessarily in person, of course, then, you know, it was all virtual, listening to podcasts, watching videos on YouTube. Eventually, I found a community of friends where we text each other every day and we're like, okay, how are you doing in your business? What's going on here? People doing things outside of the box. And the more you do that, the more you kind of step into that version of you that you are, that you can see, the more your friends and family will say, oh, okay.
They can see that.
They see it. Now they see it, because remember, they couldn't see it or feel it before. So this is where self-trust, self-confidence, trusting your intuition, surrounding yourself by people who can say, come on, you can do it. I did it. You can do it too. That can really, really be helpful. Can really be helpful. Yeah.
Well, if you're joining us, welcome. This is season 5 of Talk with Mo, and we're starting off with an amazing guest. Dr. Yewande Fadojutimi is in the house, and the conversations are just hot. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back. This is season 5 of Talk with Mo, and we were just having a conversation with Dr. Yewande Fadojutimi. We're introducing her because she's going to be like our in-house doctor. We're going to be enjoying various perspectives for her as we share our stories. And as you can tell, she's more than qualified. You know, she's told us her own story and she's walked that journey. Often we like to get perspective from people who've walked the journey so that they know exactly what it looks like. So those are the kind of perspectives she's going to be sharing as we go along in this season. So please join me as we welcome our next guest. And then when we're done, we're going to have Dr. Yewande come in and share her perspective on that. That's how we're going to roll this season. Stay tuned.